So what a boxer does is they teach themselves how to flinch forward, how to use this thing that's going on in your brain, so that you can, rather than be what is described as, to draw back or shrink from what's dangerous or difficult or unpleasant, or to shrink back when you get hit and you're in pain, but rather to learn how to be ready for it and take those things on, because that is kind of what it takes to move forward.
Hello, everybody. I'm Rachel Phillips-Buck, VP for Student Success at Fairs Resources, joined today for Cap and Gown by our president, Matt Boisvert. Hey, Matt.
Hi, Rachel. You just missed, in the last 15 seconds as we were about to come on, I almost had a disaster with my water. So if you're wondering why I was smiling, it's because that was close.
I thought you were smiling because this is season 6, episode 7, which in my house, we would be honoring 6-7, the word of the year. Yeah. My 13-year-old still can't really tell me what it means, but it shows up all the time. It's kind of shocking.
That's the whole point, I think.
I guess so. Just trying to find it places.
It's very 6-7 of you.
Very 6-7. So our episode today is all about our 2025 recap. We're going to give you a bonus book that if you have some free time over the next couple of weeks, you can look up and read. It's called Flinch. It's going to be really fun to talk about. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was great. It was kind of a much needed. So both my wife's family and my family came to my town, which has never happened. So we had a lot of Thanksgiving and got I would say for a lot of reasons, it was pretty perfect.
Good.
Of course, by the end of it, being an introvert, my battery was drained and I had to go and recharge. But
take a little break.
Yeah.
Well, it was good. You said you wanted to talk about pie. I want to tell you what happened at my house with pie. Okay. So it's just me and my husband and my daughter.
Yeah.
And our friends sell pies. And so I was like, okay, guys, we're going to buy a pie for Thanksgiving. There's only 3 of us, So what pie do you want? And my daughter said apple. And my husband said pumpkin. And I said pecan.
Yeah,
and so we had 3 pies. And do you know who ate theirs first? Lillian. Hers was gone like in a day. It was shocking. She kept being like, I have more pie. And I'm like, it's Thanksgiving. As long as you're grateful for it, you can do whatever you want. So we still have a little bit of pumpkin and pecan left over, but the apple is polished off.
So. This is the first Thanksgiving I can remember that I did not eat pecan pie. And I feel bad about it.
Listen, I have some. I'll bring you some. No problem.
Okay. Well,
also, Matt, you and me and Callie are all going to be in Nashville for SAC-COC next week.
Yeah.
So that will be really fun. If you're going to be there, come and find us. We will have a booth. Looking forward to that. I think Callie is taking some people to the Grand Ole Opry because she was very interested in that. She's like, Rachel, Matt, do you want to go? And we're like, no, but you should take some clients. So hopefully
I think she asked me on the wrong day.
You just weren't feeling
like I'm done. My battery's gone.
For sure.
But still have a great time. And I don't know, I'm just gonna shamelessly plug, if you go to SACS and you come to our booth, I guess is what they're called, exhibit hall.
Booth.
We've got these cool little flashlights. I mean, they're super thin. I gave my mom one and she texted me this morning and told me how awesome it is.
Yeah, they're magnetic. Mine's just on the fridge. So it's nice. Anytime I'm like, where's there a flashlight? The answer's on the fridge. They're very good.
Anyway, come see us.
I want to talk about rhythm of the academic year. Happy December. We've made it. We're on the home stretch. The theme for December is bittersweet.
Okay.
Matt, I just want to take you back. I was thinking one of the very first things that we think about in December with this bittersweet is this very bittersweet feeling you have, especially if you're a freshman and you've spent your first semester away from home. Maybe if you've gone far away from home, you haven't come home at all. Maybe you just went home for Thanksgiving and now you're about to come home again. But this feeling of like excitement and also anxiety about going home for a month after you have had the freedom of being at college, after you've made new friends, you haven't spent, time with your high school friends. And there's just this like wrestle of both excitement and anxiety about what that's going to look like.
Yeah. I remember that.
It's kind of like being a third culture kid, you know what I mean? Where like you have where you grew up and then you went off and you had all of these new experiences that the people at home haven't had. And then you come back and you're just a little bit changed. Even if it's not a lot, you just have adjustments to make because you've had experiences that your kind of home base haven't experienced.
You know, it's an interesting time because I was thinking, I mean, you and I both traveled far to go to our alma mater, and then going back home, and of course, it took me a week to recharge from all of that. But then there is this reflection. So I start to find out what all of my friends, what's really going on with them at
Yeah.
their universities. That's an interesting, right? Like lens, and like how is it different than what I'm experiencing? And then I'm thinking about the people who were on my hall, and at the end of this break, you know, my roommate who grew up with me, and we were great friends in high school, and so we had this really deep conversation about, do we want to go back? It was,
Right.
you know, because there's a lot pulling on you. So
For sure. So you think about all of that anxiety happening. You think about academic realizations hitting, because even if you're the most optimistic student, right now is about the time where you're like, probably should have gone to class more than once, you know, probably should have turned in my assignments. Like the reality of academics hitting, or even if you worked really hard and just college is harder than you expected or harder than your high school, you're having like a lot of anxiety around that.
yeah.
Students are not getting a lot of sleep because they're thinking about their finals. And we're always reminding our practitioners, like, this is the time where you have students where you can go find them, where you can have an in-person conversation about, have you registered for next semester? What are your plans? Are you coming back? What do we need to do so that you're happy about coming back? And if you have students who are not coming back, this is a perfect time to do exit surveys with them, because when they're sitting in the room with you and you're asking questions, you're going to get much more accurate answers to those than if you just send them a survey. So I always say, even if you can't survey every student who's leaving, any student that you can survey to try to understand better what their experience is going to be really powerful data for you. So those are the themes of December. Now, when I came home I hadn't been home at all my first semester. When I came home for Christmas, my mom did my laundry. And I was like, you're so kind, woman. Thank you. Like, why are you doing my laundry? This is mine. You shouldn't have to do it, because I just spent the whole semester having to do it. I had a new appreciation for my kind mother who was willing to do my laundry for me so I didn't have to do it. So maybe you'll get some of that too. Right? Possible.
Yep.
Okay,
Sure.
let's see if there's anything else that I want to talk about. I think that's all my chit chat that we have. Oh, one more thing. This was going to be our last episode this semester, but I had to cancel with Sherry a couple of weeks ago because I was sick. And so we're going to do a bonus episode on the 9th talking about the hidden cost of work. So that's going to be awesome. Please join us for that. It'll be lots of fun. Don't be confused that we have one more after the last episode. Anything you want to add?
No, that's great.
Okay. So this is our semester wrap up. Remember, it's a little bit tricky because this is like a semester wrap up, but also a year wrap up. We do, at the end of every semester, we do a wrap up, but then this is our theme for this year was intentionality, which is choosing to move forward with things that you have considered, right? We want you to consider things and be like, yes, I'm doing this, or this is how I'm going to do it. Not fall into like, oh gosh, what's happening now? So I'm going to create our anchor for our reflection. I'm going to talk about some of the episodes that we've done, but the anchor is this book Flinch, which you really love. I'm going to talk about what is like the automatic flinch, and then will you talk about kind of the how we turn that to be a good thing. So you guys have heard me talk before about danger brain. This is the reptilian part of your brain, which back in the old days, when a lion was chasing you to eat you, you would flinch, right? You'd be like, oh gosh, the lion's going to eat me. And that was your way of avoiding significant danger. And you didn't have time to be like, hold on a second, is that lion really going to eat me? No, because you're running for your life and you have to get away from danger. Well, we continue to have that thing in modern day society. Our danger brain turns on and we are like, I'm in danger, I'm afraid, I'm anxious, I have to get away from this. And this book says we can actually turn that into something that can be a really powerful tool for us.
Uh-oh.
It's
Can
your
you hear me?
turn. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so where do you want me to go from that? Julian Smith, great. I read this book. Let me just unpack. Um, I've read this book a long time ago. I don't know. Maybe it came out in 2011. Yeah, 2011. And so it actually came at a really important time as we were starting Ferris, and we were experiencing a lot of challenges. Um, I'm a huge Seth Godin fan, as you know, and this was part of his Domino project, and so you could probably find it if you just Googled Flinch, Julian Smith, um, from the Domino project. But for me, this idea of, so exactly as you described, the original kind of setting up of it is, if you think about a boxer and he steps into the ring, and that boxer has to have really prepared himself for what's about to happen, and so gets in the ring. If in that ring the other boxer goes to swing, throw a punch, and the reaction is a flinch, is a defensive, just a scared flinch, or so bad that there's very little flinch in it, they could really seriously get hurt, right? So what a boxer does is they teach themselves how to flinch forward, how to use this thing that's going on in your brain, so that you can, rather than be what is described as, to draw back or shrink from what's dangerous or difficult or unpleasant, or to shrink back when you get hit and you're in pain, but rather to learn how to be ready for it and take those things on, because that is kind of what it takes to move forward. And so there's in the book, there's this part where I'm just going to read this. um, for anything you want to do, finding out how is easy. Do the research and make it happen, or so any book would have you believe. Yet every day you do all the things, you continue to do them, you continue to smoke, you continue to eat poorly, you continue to stay at a bad job. Every day you do the exact opposite of what you've planned to do, and why. And the steps to achieve any goal are easy to search for, come up with, write down on a napkin, but you're still not doing it. Something's missing in the thing, that big X. The thing that's missing is your flinch. It's that you're not moving forward into it. And so Julian writes, the flinch is your real opponent. Information isn't going to help you fight it. It's behind everything that you're unhappy with. Behind the flinch is pain avoidance. And dealing with pain demands strength you may not think you have. And like I said, in 2012, when I was reading this, I needed it, because there's just it's hard to move forward when it hurts, right?
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
hard. And so this was a book that really resonated with me. And so how to train yourself, um, to step forward, knowing that it could hurt.
Yeah.
And
So
and when we apply that to everything we've talked about when it comes to intentionality, so when we apply it to orbiting the giant hairball, or we apply it to slow productivity, or we apply it to our brains and being unafraid, like our time with Suzette Parker, there's a lot that we can kind of tie all these things together with. So that's why I
yeah,
wanted
so
to.
let's unpack that. So last one of our last episodes, we talked about orbiting the giant hairball. Reminder, the hairball is policy, procedure, conformity, compliance, rigidity, and submission to the status quo. All of the things that are your favorite and mine. While orbiting is originality, rule breaking, nonconformity, experimentation, and innovation. So, this idea where you
Creativity.
are close enough to the gravity pull of this institution and you haven't spun off where you're like a crazy woman and nobody knows what you're doing, but you're in this place where you're close enough to be in the gravitational pull. I was thinking about this, Matt, with policies, and I think we do a lot of flinching about policies. I think especially in the moment, I think there's a place where students need a thing and we're like, well, sorry, it says that, or the book, the rule is, or the policy is, or whatever. And I understand we need those things. But one of the things in this book is that you need to have a folder of student failures, and you need to not flinch from that. And you need to say, this is a place where we failed a student. What are we going to make sure? How are we going to make sure that never happens again? And you've heard me tell before, I used to sit on academic suspension meetings. And one time we had a faculty member who was like, you have to let this kid back in. I have confidence in him. He's just had a rough semester, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. We let him back in. He had to meet with me for his academic suspension or academic probation. He wouldn't come. I called the faculty member and I said, this student is not coming to see me. And the faculty member said, yeah, he's really hard to get in touch with. I guess she's just going to have another bad semester. There's nothing we can do about it. And I was like, okay, well, we failed that student because he's going to fail out of school and he's going to have another semester of debt. Right. And I will never do that again. When I'm in an academic suspension meeting or probation meeting, I am going to say, for a person who argues this student should stay, I'm going to say, how are you going to be responsible for them? What are you going to do? Because otherwise, what are we doing? Right?
Yeah.
It's a great example of, here's a place we failed a student, and I don't want that to ever happen again. So
I think what he did was flinch. He's like, yeah, that's just difficult. And what you're saying is, so what I love in this example is, if you kept a folder of all the times that a student was failed by the institution, by your team or someone else, like, another office, if you had that and you took that to every meeting, I mean, pretty soon, this is where this is where orbiting the hairball is helpful, because you don't want to get too crazy. But like, what you start to do is say, like, this, we cannot let this stand. We can't just say, yeah, that's the way it goes. How do we fix this? So it's a good example.
That. Okay. I want to remind you guys about another episode that we did. Do you have something else to say?
No.
Okay.
Well, I love this one. Yeah.
Another episode we did with you, Pike, Stephanie, and Megan. They were incredible. It's one of my favorites. They're just like, you just meet some people sometime where you're like, dang, they are not kidding around. Yeah. Like, they are committed to student success. So a couple of the things that they said that I really love, first of all, the right information at the right time. We don't give all of the information at orientation because it's too much and no one can remember it, right? So you have to figure out how you deliver exactly the right information when a student needs it so that they can absorb it, because it's relevant to what they're going through right now. And you remember, Matt, they had an intervention where they were like, our students aren't registering for classes. They're not getting their financial aid done. They aren't paying their bills. What are we going to do? We can't get them to come to the office. And they said their advisor, the director of the business office, and the director of financial aid went to every single one of their like U100 classes with a worksheet. And we're like, we're going to walk through this so that in this moment you can get it done. And then if we have to do something else, you'll know where I am and you can come and see me. But talk about not flinching. Talk about being like, because you and I have services, where they're like, oh yeah, well, we can't do that. Like, there's nothing to be done, right? Nope. There is something that you can do, and it's painful.
Yeah, it's going to be painful.
Yeah,
but it's worth it. It is worth it. And what they've done is they have changed the culture, right? So, I mean, people aren't surprised. So the first time, people are kind of surprised. The second time they do it, people are like, oh, I mean, they mean business, right?
Yeah. And it is such a good example of upstream thinking, because yes, it's hard, but you are solving a problem that down the line is going to cause more pain and more anxiety and more hardship for your students and for your institution. So I just love that example of being like, we can solve that problem and here's how we're going to do it. So it's a good one.
That was a great one.
Yeah. So our book this semester was Slow Productivity. I want to pull out a couple of things from that. Remember, we talked about working at a natural pace, which is really nice in higher education because we have a rhythm of the academic year. And we have some times where things are high intensity. We talked about that in terms of farming. Like you wake up and like all the crops have to come in. And so you don't take rest, you just work, 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 work. And then we also have these times of low intensity where we're reflective, where we talked about it like fishing, where you walk to the stream and then you stand in the stream and you catch some fish and you take a break. And that rhythm for us is really important. And Matt, I always say this is true with technology in higher education. If you miss your deadline, you have a year, because there's one time where we're registering our freshmen for classes. And if you don't hit that deadline, it's over until the next August, right? So being really in tune with that low intensity, high intensity, and understanding that there's this natural pace that we can anticipate and build our schedule and our lives around is super important. Anything to add about that?
No, well, you just took me back to the stream, so no.
Yeah. Oh, look.
Oh boy.
I've got my gestures on. Okay. One more thing I want to talk about from slow productivity is overhead tax, which has just been so helpful to me. This idea that there are seemingly simple tasks that someone asks you, can you just do this thing? And you're like, no, I can't, because there's 72 steps before I can actually do that thing. And making that transparent so that everybody understands, when you send me an email, can you really quick? We talked about this with early alert. Like, no, I can't really quick. I have to do all of these things so that then I can get to the student. And how do we get efficient about those things, but also tell the truth about how much work is there, and understanding that there's overhead tax for any of those different pieces. So, you and I were saying, like, every new student success program you launch without stopping something else is flinching from a hard choice, because it's easier just to be like, do another thing, do another thing, do another thing, instead of being like, hold on, how are the things we're doing working? And if they're not working, I know it's painful. I know you've invested in them, but we have to have measurements. And if they're not working, we have to stop doing them. And that can be really difficult for people, I think.
Yeah, I think if our listeners would really assess the cost of saying yes to these things, and sometimes those, yeah, well, of course we want to do good things, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things that could go away, and really, would anyone miss them?
Yeah. Which is tied to this other idea in slow productivity, which is about obsessing about quality. So we don't want to just look busy. We want to do really excellent work. And in that episode, Matt, you and I talked about messaging for students, how words can be cheap now that we have AI. Like, it doesn't cost you anything to write an email to a student every single day.
Right.
That's a terrible practice, right? So what we have to do is think about quality, and how do we have good communication with our students without them being overwhelmed. And I will double down on the idea that you should create a student account where you get all of the emails that a student gets in a day. Because I will tell you, I am an online, non-traditional student, and I get emails about the bus not working, about the fire alarm went off in the res halls last night, about internships that I can get if I'm a psychology major, about me. Like, I get so many emails, none of them pertain to me. So one really important piece is to go in and be like, how are we going to make sure that we're giving excellent messaging, not busy messaging and kind of overwhelming messaging, which,
right.
Yeah. One other thing that came out of there that I just want to remind everybody, and that is doing a red, yellow, green survey on your students mid-semester about how faculty are doing. So faculty in the classroom would say, I want you to rate how I'm doing, give me some gut check feedback, in the third week or midterms. And then we're going to stop and address that. And I'm going to look and see if there's something that I need to improve. So I love that. Okay, 2 more for you. Do you want to talk briefly about the institutional excellence chain, which also came out of that episode?
Sure. Well, just briefly, I think that, where I get really passionate is, so I think I've talked about Hope College and some of the work that they're doing, but every institution, every one of our universities want to have loyal, engaged, contributing alumni. And if you want to improve enrollment, you got to have alumni who love your institution. It's like, well, how do we get those? And so this idea of this the chain for institutional excellence, which ends with, financial stability, that the institution is solid, that alumni are contributing in every way at every age or years of since graduation. It all starts at the very beginning is internal excellence, that your internals are focused on high quality systems, right? So we want to have the best faculty. We're going to be rigorous in our pursuit for great faculty. We're going to have the systems in place to recognize great faculty and reward them and promote them and move them and support them through so that they're even better in the classroom, right? So this excellence, internal excellence, leads to your faculty and staff so not just faculty, but for your entire community, that your employees then are happy because they have a great system, and they're proud of and they're recognized, and all of that leads to very satisfied faculty and staff. And what faculty and staff who are very satisfied lead to is a great experience for your students, and mentoring and the connections and people who are free, and all of these things that we've talked about lead to a student experience engagement with faculty and staff that is remarkable. And that experience then leads to this graduating student who you've transformed their life. And so if you want this outcome of highly engaged alumni who are contributing in all of these ways and supporting your students, you have to start at the very beginning, which is your culture and your systems, and what are all the pieces, so that we know, we talk about, how we just communicate to our internally and externally. And so we make sure that everything's aligned. And well, you just wrote a whole paper on this, I know. But this idea is, a lot of times people are always looking for this outcome. But again, upstream, the only way you get that outcome is that you have your faculty, your staff, your community who love being there.
Right.
And if they love being there and they show up to things like, I don't know, for many of our schools that have chapel, do your employees, do your faculty and staff go to chapel? If not, you might want to know why.
I mean, Matt, right? I was thinking about graduation dinners that are happening right now for different colleges.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I know a school where none of the faculty go. And I'm like, why?
Wow.
No, we don't have to. Okay.
Right on the other side of this wall, just a little piece of information. I have my film room, which you've seen. It's a collection of VHS and camcorder videos, and I have a recording from my senior dinner from my college, and I have it because it was meaningful to me, like I bought it kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was meaningful to me because all of these professors who changed my life, I wanted to be connected with them, and I wanted to have that memory, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I have to digitize all of those because no one has a VCR anymore. I don't either.
Yeah.
But that is a great example. If your employees don't want to go to the dinner because they don't have to, you're not creating this experience for your students where they look back as alum and say, that was important and I want to contribute to that.
Yeah. Okay, here's my closing for our recap. And that is just that we have to remember that every student that we come in contact with is faced with this idea of flinching backward or flinching forward. And, when we talk about danger brain and we talk about a sense of belonging and all of those different elements, students are just in a very volatile time. Like, there's so much going on. They're learning so many things, not just academically, but in student development. And first of all, we want to meet them in this place where we're asking them to do hard things. We want to meet them there and be like, you can do hard things. You can flinch forward. It's going to be okay. You don't have to be afraid of being uncomfortable or pain or doing something that is unpleasant. You actually can confront that and do really hard things. But also, I think for our listeners, you can't do that unless you're doing it in your own life, right? So Matt, sometimes I think we forget how hard what we're asking our students to do is.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
if we are not practicing that and showing them, look at what I do. I think about Dr. Sherry Woosley, who does, like, she just picks a thing that's really hard and she learns how to do it. And she's like, the reason I do it is because I want to remember what it's like to have to do these things, because you never want to be so old that you're like, I don't do things that I have to learn, right? You want to constantly be engaging that muscle and be practicing this idea of how we step forward into things that are really hard. One of the action items coming out of this book is challenge yourself by doing something that hurts or is hard on purpose. Hard exercise, a very cold shower, something that makes your brain scream with how hard it is, and then try to tolerate it. The goal is not to get used to it, it's to learn that you can survive through hard things. And I think putting that into practice is so important, not just as a model for our students, but so that we can show up in our lives in a really intentional way and not be afraid, but do hard things. So, any closing remarks on that?
No, I think there's a lot of good examples for that. Something hard, but I think that's a great way to end. You know, to me, the issue is if you look at it and you're just not doing what it takes to move forward, and you're just living in status quo, you'll never be you'll never achieve excellence if that's what you're doing. And so that's the hard part, is the only way to really achieve excellence is to put yourself out there and kind of it might be for an introvert that's a different pain than for an extrovert, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And so thinking about it in that way, for you, what would be a challenge for you? Is it a challenge for you to walk across campus and meet someone new? Is that a challenge for you? Well, it's probably worth doing, you know?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
thanks,
All
Rachel.
right. Well, that's all we have to say today, but we will have a bonus episode December 9th. Dr. Sherry Woosley is going to come and talk about the hidden tasks of work, which is always such a good conversation. Otherwise, rhythm of the academic year, you're in a bittersweet season. So thank you for taking time out to share an hour with us, and we see you, and you're doing good work. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.